Okay, so we're kind of at part 2 of the haunted house and how things kind of picked up and how we got to where we are today. Uh, I, uh, it's been an interesting week to say the least. It's been really, so I've only shared this with my videos that I have completely gone rogue again. And, but like I'm filming videos, something I would never do, with a handful of family and friends. And I, like, very limited. And I haven't shared it publicly. I put it on YouTube because they're like 20-minute videos, and anyway, hard to send via text or email. And I've sent them to a few people, but I haven't like promoted it, done social media, added tags to anything. And people have still found it organically though, a few. But it's really turned out to be an interesting week. Like, I would say the spirit activity in my house has definitely picked up, and that's kind of just small peas. Like, I don't really like any of this like haunting, like limbos and spirit stuff anyway. I thought it was kind of interesting, like when I watched my last video, how much I'm just like, am not really comfortable talking about it. It just weirds me out. And not that all the other stuff isn't super weird, but those are like my memories that have come back that I've been able to tap into. And it's kind of like more stuff that like lights me up. Like, it's positivity and like how much more is out there. And it's like stuff that just like, better. And this limbos and spirit, or spirits in limbo, they're just feels like not my problem. And yes, I have a haunted house and I want to share it. I feel like it's an important part of my journey, as far as, I was kind of on one side of the fence and wanted nothing to do with any of this stuff ever. But this house has kind of been like my wake-up call, and it's only meant to be temporary for me anyway. And I understand that, and I realize that now. But I'm still here, like, and I'm still having to deal with it for the time being. So it's a treat. But anyway, I think I'm gonna do my best to just kind of power through it, because this isn't the part that I like, that I want to talk about. I think it's all really weird. It's not something that I want to look into, learn more about. I just am ready to GTFO. And yeah, it's weird. And so I'm just gonna, like I said, do my best to power through it. And I think it's important to cover, as far as me being on one side of the fence and being catapulted to the other. That might help some people, whoever I feel like I need to share my story for, who might be going through the same thing out there. But anyway, it's, the small amount of people who have seen it in the past week, and those who found it organically, aside from the wonkiness in my house that has picked up, I will do another video later. But there's like different realms outside of just the spirit that I just don't really know that they like me talking about this stuff in my experiences. But you know what? Like I said, there's been a lot of cool breakthroughs with the universe, and and then there's been some stuff that I'd rather never deal with again. But okay, part 2. Sorry for the sidetrack. Okay, so I think I left off that I had been in New York, I think is where, sorry, I should have looked at that before I started this video. I was kind of spent most of January and February of the beginning of this year in New York, and I came back into February, and I decided like, okay, time to adult again, time to go back to the cookie cutter, find a 9 to 5, get my act together. And unfortunately, so like I have a really small family anyway, but and my mom, my mom was one of three, and she passed away when I was 19, really unexpectedly. And her oldest sister, who lived in Oregon, she went to the ER like the first weekend of March with really bad stomach pains, and ended up finding she was like filled head to toe with cancer. And you know, as the weeks progressed, that there was just like absolutely nothing anyone could do. And my sister and I went out and saw her, and we were lucky enough to spend some time with her. And you know, so that took up some of, and I was also spent time with my grandparents during that month, so that kind of took a bit of a chunk out of March of me being here in this house. And my aunt passed away like almost a month today, like the beginning of April, from finding out from the ER visit. And so April, though, like middle of April is kind of when I was, you know, back here more full time, and kind of dealing with just a lot of craziness. And that's when I also, around the same time that I got a Ring doorbell camera, which was so long overdue, for the love of God. But like I think I had mentioned in my last video, you know, one of the things about the backyard, so when I first moved into this house, there was just like a metal fence that, like, I don't know, probably came when the house was built. But I had, a couple months after moving in, so summer of 2018, I had put like a 6-foot privacy fence up, or that was the plan. And the fence contractors called the night before to say that like they didn't get the approval from the city to do the 6-foot side along the street, and some dumb ordinance. I'll swear you all the time, but it was either like I was gonna have to build the 6-foot fence like straight off the back of my house and lose a third of the yard if I finished the 4th side with privacy, or or I was going to just have to leave part of the metal fence that is so ratchet, and keep that portion of my yard fenced in. Well, my dog is the size of a small horse, and at the time I was like, just put up the privacy as much as you can, don't take Desmond's yard away, and I'll sort it out from there. So the privacy fence like helps some kind of the stress concerns, but really like the side that along the street and all that, like it was still very exposed, and you know, that added like a lot to my, like, I guess, stress level of all the weirdness that happens in this neighborhood, human and not. And you know, one of the things, like I said, like somebody was like constantly smoking cigarettes outside my window smell, and Desmond would go out in the night, I mentioned all that, but it would be like, you know, the sound. What freaks me out the most of the stranger danger part is, you know, that 4-foot fence along the side of the sidewalk, the street, whatever, like it's 2 intersections, and it would sound like somebody was just like completely walking through the leaves, and like the cigarette smells would get closer and closer and closer. And you know, it's not like cigarette smell bothered me so much, it's just like it smells like somebody smoking a cigarette next to me and nobody's standing next to me, and there's also somebody walking clear as day, like footsteps, like just like mine would sound if I walked through the backyard in the middle of the night. And you know, there was stuff like that, and in that corner of the yard that like wasn't fenced in, like kind of where the privacy side, the back line of the fence met the metal still side along the sidewalk, Desmond would like lay out there perched every single night. He'd like go out there and lay and just like point, he'd be on point, I guess you could say. And then after a while, just charge full send attack barking at this corner. and I never got it. Like, nobody was there. And kind of like some more of the stuff that I had picked up, like okay, so I got this fridge when I moved in or whatever, and it constantly sounded like it was like a transformer fridge. Like, that sounds silly as hell, but it's the best way to describe it. Like, it sounded like it would, like, it'll go on these rants. It still does. It sounds like a tongue clicking almost, and I guess kind of like alienish talk, or, you know, something is like the best way I can describe it. And, you know, it's like some kind of just that weird stuff had continued to gain momentum in April. And then I always sleep with like plenty of lights on in this house because I live in a freak show. And in the upstairs bathroom light is one of them I commonly just keep on. And it started to be I'd go to bed with it on, and I'd wake up with it off, and then like there's like a shower rod with a curtain, and the same shower ring was off too. So I'd like wake up like most night, like, you know, if I slept with it on, and I'd wake up and the bathroom light would be off and the same like ring on the shower curtain. And it was just kind of stuff like that just like little tiny like subtle stuff, but they just continued to become more and more consistent, like a power move on whoever's part. And then Des, like, he is like the biggest giant snuggle bug, and like more and more, like I would, like, if he, like at nighttime when he'd be on the bed, like I'd reach over and pet him, and he'd like deep sigh, like so annoyed with me, and like get up and walk off. And I'm like, okay, like that's cool. Like sometimes I do, like I pet him, like, or mess with him too much, and he's just like, give me a break. But this was like, you know, I hadn't done that. And so he just like kept being so annoyed if I like petted him one time. Like, it was just like he was so burnt out of pets. First world problems. But anyway, so burnt out of pets that he just would have to like get off the bed and go sleep somewhere else. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I didn't know if I was going to mention this, but I feel like I think I'm going to. Okay, another part of the stranger danger, like, that kind of continued to pick up, and this kind of was like, I guess, like one of the root of the problems. Like, it kind of tied into like all the umpteenth keys being given out, and my fear of like you know, actually being harmed by like human actions or whatever. So since I moved in, prior to the even part of the privacy fence, or the 3/4 of it going up, there were like blacks that, okay. Again, I wish I could edit videos. Okay. There were like black Suburbans, and like I had mentioned, you know, Desmond goes out at night. I'm burnt out of saying it. I can't imagine how burnt out you are of hearing it. Anyway, anytime between 1 and 5 a.m. that he would go out, I would say like 60% of the time, if I open the back door, like my back door kind of opens to 2 streets. Like, I live, like my front of my house faces, you know, it's on the kind of the main, one semi-busy main through street. And then on it, there's, you know, a side street that runs alongside it where the metal fence still is. But then if you go out my back door and you open the back door, you look up, and it also kind of intersects with 2 different streets. And the one, like, the way the land's laid out, I guess, it kind of like slopes uphill from my back step. So like if you were, you know, up the street looking down at my back door, you know, you'd be kind of like looking down a little bit at an angle, I guess. Anyway, anytime between 1 and 5 a.m., yeah, like more than 50% of the time, I would open the door to let Desmond out if he had to go out in the middle of the night. And there would be like a Suburban, like 50 yards up, 100 at max. They would like turn, black Suburban, they would turn on the lights. And when I first moved in, there would be like 3 in uniform, and they literally all turn on the lights at the same time, and then pull up alongside the house and have the same kind of distance between them, the same cadence, like blacked out, like really dark tint windows. And they would just pull up alongside the house. And at that point, I was like, you know, I'm going to be kidnapped and gone for good. Like, I thought it was kind of like one of those situations. And so that really fed into part of where like this stranger danger, I was really convinced a lot of this stuff was like human oriented. And then over time, it wasn't 3, it was just 1. Like I would say, you know, it's still more than 50% of the time. And it still happens. Not quite as consistently or as often as it used to, but I'd say now we're probably at between 30 and 40%. There's one, or there's like a car that when I let him out, the lights come on. And even if it doesn't pull up alongside my house, it's just kind of there, like letting me know it's there. And you know, my couple of my friends who have stayed with me at nights where I'm just like freaking terrified. Initially they were just like, you know, you have just like let all of this go to your head. Like you are so stressed out. Like, you know, just there's no way this can be real. And then just in the past like 2 to 3 months when they've stayed here and they've seen it for themselves, they're like, holy shit, you gotta get out of there. And I'm like, yes, well aware. I think I've been saying that for, I don't know, like going on, feels like ages now. So anyway, that's kind of something that has fueled into this weirdness as well with everything I'm going through and like some of the fears. But as far as like the alien stuff goes, so, you know, we kind of, all of that stuff and like just more and more, like it was kind of like the subtle, like the, you know, the same light off, the same shower curtain ring off every night, just stuff like that. But I've always been freaked out by the basement. There's always been like just a weird bad energy. And it got to the point where it was like so bad, like I didn't even want to go down there. Doesn't want to go down there either. And I, like the main living room, like off the front window, like you walk for like, you know, you walk in the front door of the main living room, walk to the kitchen, and you have to walk by both sets of like stairs to go like, you know, a few up, a few down, whatever, split level. And I like didn't even like walking from like the living room to the kitchen on the main level because you had to walk by these like stairs. Like it was just like like darkness growing out of the freaking basement, I guess you could say. And yeah, mid-April, I got the Ring camera, and at that point, just outside, because still to this day, I'm like actually too scared to get them in my backyard or house because I still live here, and like I don't think I can see what I would see and be okay with it. Like anyway, but in the front yard, and so at that point, it started to pick up stuff that I just like could no longer convince myself, like actively convince myself that I had just like, you know, was stressed out and crazy and like had created something more in my head. In kind of the final or the initial wake up call, I guess like the initial like boom real icebreaker was one night I was binge watching Suits at 4 a.m. Yes, I had just discovered it. I was actually, like, I was sober, like, you know, we can just write that one off right there, like, whatever. Lying on the couch, watching Suits. And my, like, I had my phone, like, beside me, and it was, like, you have motion at your front door. And so, you know, my house is, like, close enough to the street, like, if a car goes by, you can hear it. And, you know, no car, it was completely silent outside. So I was like, weird, that's weird. And I was like new to the Ring cam game, right? Like whatever. And then I kind of saw like a flash of light and I was like, okay. And so I just stood up and I looked out the like peephole of the door and I couldn't see anything. So I kind of like pulled back like the front window curtain and looked, still couldn't see anything. And I was like, weird. So I like opened the Ring alert so it would like pull up the live view on my Ring cam. And you know what? I know how freaking weird this is. Like, I know. So bear with me. But there was like a hot blonde in distress, like mid-20s, like strapless white dress, fit, cute. I mean, cute-ish. It kind of just like looked like night vision, and like at that point I had not seen anybody else like I hadn't like looked at night vision or how anybody looked. So, but I mean, I thought it was real, and I just was like freaking out, like what the hell? Like, why is this girl in my yard in distress? Like, what on earth? And so I finally, like, in Desmond, like, I should have said this. Desmond is out, like, looking out the front window, barking his attack bark, going crazy. And I was like, finally, just, after a few minutes, like, came to terms with, okay, you need to open the door, see what's going on, and find out if she needs help. Like, you just gotta do it. #humanity. Anyway, and so I finally opened the door, and there's nobody there. And I'm like, but the Ring app is still up on my hand in my cell phone, and I'm looking at the Ring app, and I'm like, watching this all play out still. So I shut the door, I lock it, and I close in and out of like the app a few times, like just convincing myself, like, you're losing it. You're losing it. This is a nightmare. It's a bad dream. You're gonna wake up. And it's still playing out. So then I open the door again. I look, nothing to the blind eye. Desmond's about to go through the front window barking. And I'm like, okay, shut the door again, lock it. And I'm just standing there like, okay, like, how much medication do I have in this house? And like, how can I just like go comatose for a good 6 to 8 hours and survive this? It is kind of like my mentality, to be honest. And all of a sudden I feel like this kind of like inner, like this, like, I don't know, it's like a wave, like a wave of energy, a wave kind of just like coming through the front window. And I'm like, oh fuck. And anyway, and like in the midst of this, it kind of feels like, like one of my hairs, like, if you have like a loose hair and it's like on your arm or something, you kind of like just go like this to get it off. And, so I did that, but like in the midst of this, that was the least of my concern. That was just like a like, I just did that like, unknowingly. Anyway, I can't think of the word, but, and I just go upstairs to the bathroom, like, to brush my teeth, to see what medications I can find, and I walk in the bathroom, and I turn on the light, and at that point, I, like, have scratches, like, on my arms, and I was like, no, this is just not gonna work. It wasn't so chill though, I'll tell you that much. And a few hours later, by the time I got one of my best friends up, and I was like beside myself. And so she had told me to go to this like metaphysical store or whatever, and like said, ask for ABC, like a smudge kit. And so I went there, and I was telling the guys, like, this is all crazy, like, and this is what happened. I need a smudge kit, and anything else that I will buy anything, like, sell me whatever, but just help me figure this out. And they were like, really nice, and they gave me like the crystals, the quartz and selenite and black tourmaline, and those are like crystals. And then like the sage, it's like, anyway, sage, to get rid of negative energy, to like, it's protection stones, like whatever, you put them in all corners of your house, like over your doors, whatever. This thing, smudging is apparently a common thing, not to me, anyway. And so and she said, go home, do this. It's kind of more of a routine cleanse thing. Like, I don't think it's going to take care of your problem. Like, this, what you have going on, it's probably going to be a lot more than that. And she said, so she wrote down the name of a guy and a number and said, you see if it works. She just said, do it. But like, if and when it doesn't, here's who you need to call. Like, here's who we send, like, you refer people to who can come and help clear out spaces who have these type of situations going on. And so my friend and I smudged, did the whole deal, and it helped. Like, you know, things kind of like mellowed out ish for like 2 weeks. Then everything came back full send. I'm full send times 100. So, you know, things would pick up. Like, I would be in bed with the lights on, just like on my phone, and no fans, no anything. And all of a sudden, it was like somebody would go full send into the blinds. Like if somebody picked up a human and just like rammed them into the blinds. And then, what else happened? Okay. Oh, this is, well, yeah. So I would, a lot of things, and it like actually just gives me a lot of anxiety to even talk about. Like I said, still living in the freak show. But like I would go to light candles, and the matches wouldn't light, or I'd get the match lit and it would instantly go out. Like stuff like that, where you're just like, you know, constantly. I would say the final straw though was one night, like this kind of just negative, kind of whatever was in the basement, I guess you could say, that I just like it continued to build to the point I didn't even want to walk past the staircase. It was almost like if that thing had overtaken the house. And one night, like it was like every room I went in, it kind of started slowly and it built over like probably like 20 minutes. But it felt like the room would like the barometric pressure or whatever, like was just like caving in, like this heavy like pressure, like it almost felt like it was gonna like crush me. And then there was like no oxygen in the room. Like I didn't actually feel like there was air. It just felt like this, like something was gonna just like crush me, but there wasn't actually oxygen in the air. And it kind of started in one room. I'd move to the other, it'd get worse. I'd move to another room, it would get worse. To the point like I almost couldn't breathe. And not anxiety, like nothing a Xanax could have fixed. Like I'm just gonna throw that out there now. Like, no. And anyway, like to the point of like, it was just like the worst feeling in the entire world. So I like get Desmond and I'm like, we're getting in the car. It's like, at this point it's like 2 a.m. And I get Desmond, I'm about to get, like, I'm like, you know, things are kind of like, sounds like they're like falling and dropping in the different rooms. And in the kitchen, like I like grab his like medicine and I'm like putting on his, like go to put on his leash. And it just sounds like bowling balls start going, like getting thrown on every direction around us. Like there's nothing physical flying, but like it's just like as if somebody's dropping a bowling ball on hardwood floors as hard as they can around Desmond and I. So I get him in the car, we leave, and at that point, like, you know, whatever, state of friends, like the next day it's like, okay, I gotta call this guy. And at this point it's like, I have no idea what a Reiki spiritual healing is, or I just like am texting this random number of a spiritual healer. And it's like, you don't, at this, you know, I trust no one, like it, you know, it's at this point. And it's like, okay, so you have a really bad situation on your hands and you just kind of have to blind text somebody. And it's like, to me it felt like you're just like inviting a stranger in who, like this all started with like stranger danger and all this weird stuff. So it was just like a lose-lose situation, it felt like. And it's like, what, like, you know, finally I just out of desperation did it. And in my mind I'm thinking like, God, I just like work, like, you know, best case scenario, if he comes here and says like, you know, I can't take care of this and it's, you know, pay me double to tell you that, like, fine, just like be honest about it, right? Like I just didn't want somebody to come here and like do some witchcraft and like make things even scarier. And so I had no idea what I was getting into. I just knew I had no other option. So I text him and I'm, you know, just say like, hey, like I got your name from, you know, this store, this gal, like I have a situation, like can you help me? And, you know, he said yes, and like, you know, I've had to do this for a handful of people. I've never had to do it, like go back to a place more than once. He said some people like me to come and just like do their business or their house once a year for like a healthy, you know, cleansing, like energy, whatever. And he said, but I've never had to go anywhere more than once. And in my mind, I'm just like, oh, well, you know, welcome to your first time of that. But, you know, whatever. Again, I'm clueless to this realm, so I just playing ball. Kinda. Anyway, okay, we're at 30 minutes. Okay, I'll do part 3. We'll wrap it up quick. He had to come back 2 more times. Medium had to come back 2 more times. But that's kind of where, like, at least it's like more fun to pick up, and I can tell you like what was all here, how it got sorted out, what stayed, what left, what's come since then, where we are today, kind of to my wake-up call, and then, you know, go on to get into the fun galactic stuff and all the really cool stuff, and not kind of this like side, like spirits in limbo who are just driving me wild and are just kind of small piece in the big picture. But anyway, okay, night y'all. Bye.